Hello, guys. Welcome once again to Rune Reading Wednesday. I am Gulveg, and we had a pretty powerful full moon. If you haven't caught the full moon tarot report, take a look at it. And now we're going to take a look and see what else we might be able to channel as far as some divine guidance on what do we need to know for the following week. Okay, let's just get started. All right, so join me in setting the intention. What do we need to know or do to benefit us the most over the next week? Okay. All right, we have four fur here. Evidently, they have a lot to say. The very first rune that comes out of the bag is the ice rune, Esau. Then, very interesting, we have a rune that's very much associated with fire. It's known as the torch, Kanos. It's about desire, primarily. We have the communication rune, Anzus, and Rhitho, the cart. All right, we have two more rune pulls. I always do this 3 times, keeping that same intention in our mind. We have the rune of day, Dagos, intuition, and clarity, knowing. Othala, inheritance, family. One more. Okay, we have relationships, the horse and the rider. This isn't just interpersonal relationships, although it could be. Sometimes it's also the relationship with ourself. It's very close relationships, and either way, it might be a relationship to your divine highest self, your soul, your guides. It could be a relationship that's close even professionally. Usually folks just go straight to like intimate relationships, but it's not just that. But it is any relationship that's close to us. We have Urus, vitality, manifestation, personal power, physical health. And Sowilo, success. There we go. Wow, it's a real mixed bag this time around. Let's take a look and see how all of these, and there's a lot of runes that came out, so obviously there's a lot of energies at play. Okay, so first and foremost, what comes to my mind is, especially with the communication and the movement rune, the Anzus and Rhitho. And that being with ice, stillness, and the desire rune is that the first thing that's coming to my mind is the fact that we are preparing for a Mercury retrograde coming up. It is coming up in 5 days. Today is the 22nd. So I believe it's going on the 27th, if I am not mistaken. But it's coming up very soon. And I personally have already started to see like some Mercury retrograde kind of stuff happening. We lost internet at my house for 3 days. So like that's the kind of thing. And though for those of you who aren't familiar with what Mercury retrograde is all about, it's a time in which we're being asked to go within, time that we're being asked to reclaim, redesign, reanalyze, reassess. It's not the best time typically to go into contracts or to make major decisions around finances or partnerships. Communication can get kind of muddy around Mercury retrograde, and technology tends to go a little bit more wackadoodle around Mercury retrograde, and we can find that there might be delays in things moving. So travel or waiting for important packages or letters to come into the mail might take an extra day or two. So folks don't typically like Mercury retrograde because it's not a convenient time. It's not convenient, and we work in such a fast-paced world that a lot of times it can get kind of like this wah, wah, wah kind of feelings around it, which is understandable. But there is a gift in Mercury retrograde in that it is giving us a chance to slow down. If you're feeling like you're needing a break, that life is becoming chaotic, or maybe you know that there's some important decisions that need to be made in the future, but you're just not even really sure like which thing needs to be attended to first, which fire needs to be put out first, fire. Then this Mercury retrograde could be used in order to gain some additional clarity, that if you're able to take action after Mercury retrograde, that's ideal. Of course, we all know that not always important decisions can wait for the amount of time for Mercury to come out of retrograde, because it takes, about a month or so for it to kind of start lightening up a bit, because there's a post-shadow and a pre-shadow phase on top of that. But it can be used to give us some additional clarity, and that is part of what the torch is all about. The torch is used to illuminate, to light the way. Try our best to slow down this week. Try our best to slow down the movement. Even if there's a lot of momentum that's already taking place, be very methodic and very kind of strategic. If there's any kind of question around this week on whether or not you should ask questions for clarity, like, I'm pretty sure we're on the same page, but maybe I should pick up the phone and make sure that all of my partners on the same page, or that my coworkers and I are on the same page. If there's any question in the back of your mind as to whether or not you should clarify, go ahead and clarify, because these are definitely saying that things could get a little muddy. Do not assume that everybody's on the same page or that people are understanding. If there's a little voice that's saying you should clarify, follow that intuition. Which comes into the second rune pool that we did, which is Othala and Clarity. This again is kind of going back a little bit to what we were just talking about as far as slowing down in order to get clarity. It's really hard to maintain clarity when we're moving at such a rapid pace all the time. We're cyclic creatures. We are part of nature, and the natural ebb and flow is to have times in which there is action and maybe more heat, more vigor, more vitality. And then there's times in which we allow ourselves to slow down, to rest, to meditate. So, the cycle of, death and rebirth, the cycle of inhale, exhale, involution, evolution, all of these, we are very cyclic creatures, and we have mainly disconnected from that truth. But our bodies know it. Our minds still respond to being cyclic. So the more we can honor that this week and honor the fact that we're being asked to slow down, the better off we're going to feel. And actually, ironically, we're going to get into these other set of runes that are saying that we will end up in the long run getting more done by allowing ourselves to slow down. We will end up wasting less energy, even though we are moving at perhaps a more slower pace. And we will have more clarity, and we will be moving slower and allowing the intuition to really be able to speak to us more clearly. It's very difficult for the intuition to be heard clearly over the shouts of the analytical mind when we're moving so fast. It's really only in that space where we allow ourselves to slow down where our intuition can work at its best. And the inheritance piece, as well as the relationship rune here, what's coming to me around that is that there is some clarity that perhaps folks have been asking for around relationships, specifically in the vicinity of family members. And this is going to get reflected to how we relate to ourselves. So as we get clarity on how to navigate perhaps some of the challenges that might have been coming up in these very personal relationships that are really close. And I should clarify it. The Othala, the family rune, it doesn't necessarily mean blood family. It could also be people who are so close to you, they're like family. So if there has been some things that have come up around that, we might find that the clarity comes when we start asking ourselves the question, how are these relationships in my external world, how are these relationships maybe reflecting certain relationships that I have with myself? And that actually comes back to the torch, because one of the things about the torch is desire. Are there some unrelinquished desires that might be sabotaging us because they're not being attended to? And this goes into shadow work. A lot of times shadow work, with the shadows that we have subconsciously, some of them represent unmet needs, unmet desires. This can also go back to inner child work. So if there has been a desire to be seen, if there's been a desire to be validated, to be heard, if there's something that we have been wanting to communicate for some time, and either we don't know how to say it, or perhaps we've been getting shut down every time we try to, or perhaps we're not getting understood, now's a really good time to just slow down and get really clear on what it is, on why it is that that particular communication might be really important for us. What is the unmet need there? What is the unmet desire? Because you deserve to have those desires and to have those needs met. Now, depending on what it is and your particular situation, you may or may not want to wait to actually have that conversation until after Mercury retrograde. That's a possibility. And you can make that call as to what the proper timing would be, because timing it's a big deal. It's a big deal. The other piece too is slowing down for our own health and vitality. If you're running really thin, if you are approaching ease, folks, now is a really important time to take a look and ask yourself, what is it that my body needs, my soul needs, what does my mind need to maintain health, vitality, and vigor? Am I feeling somewhat weak physically? Do I need to rest? And in doing so, it's actually ironic that this slowing down is going to allow us to have more success, more vigor, more power, Solilo, with a little bit more grace and ease. Which, isn't that really kind of what most of us want? We want the good things with the path of least resistance. Unfortunately, what most of us have been taught is that, you have to do a lot in order to, and produce a lot in order to get the things that you want. And that kind of mentality usually makes things a little bit more difficult than they really need to be. So if we've been getting in our own way, if we've been needing to say some things, if we haven't really been feeling heard or understood, now's a really good time to slow down enough so that you can contemplate in what way you need to say things in order to be understood, and perhaps even take a look at the timing of that communication, and slowing down enough so that you can take just really good, exquisite care of yourself, because you, just as much as anyone else, deserves your love, your appreciation, and the devotion to your well-being. Okay, that's it. All right, guys, have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you back here next Wednesday for another Rune Reading Wednesday. If you are wanting a professional reading on a one-on-one for something specific for a situation that's coming up in your life, then please shoot me an email at info@amberserpent.com, or take a look at the website www.amberserpent.com and take a look at the scheduler that's right there, where you can just really easy peasy choose the time that would work best for you. All right, guys, have a good one. Bye.